3 in the morning. Donovan Ashworth was standing in the middle of his hotel's kitchen, a kitchen the size of a small aircraft hangar, all stainless steel and fluorescent light, wearing a $2,000 blazer over his pajama pants, holding a flashlight like a man who had watched too many crime documentaries. He had been asleep for exactly 47 minutes. A record for him. The call came from the overnight security desk. Motion detected in the kitchen, staff level, camera angle blocked by a delivery cart someone had left in the wrong place. Probably nothing. A mouse, a malfunctioning sensor, but the Ashworth Grand was 11 days away from its 5-star review audit, and Donovan had not slept properly in 3 weeks, so probably nothing was not a phrase his nervous system was capable of accepting. He pushed through the swinging door. The kitchen was dark except for a bluish glow from the far end. The prep station near the walk-in coolers, where nobody should be at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. He heard it before he saw it. Not the sound of someone stealing. Not the crash of broken dishes or the rustle of someone rifling through drawers. It was the sound of someone working. Focused, quick, deliberate. The kind of sound that has a rhythm to it. Donovan moved closer. Wren Calloway was sitting on an overturned milk crate in front of a stainless steel prep counter, a laminated spreadsheet pinned flat, with a mason jar on one end and a coffee mug on the other, her hotel-issued black uniform jacket folded neatly beside her. She was in her undershirt and had a pencil tucked behind each ear. One regular, one red, and she was cross-referencing something on a clipboard against a printed supply manifest, whispering numbers under her breath. She did not look up. "Give me 2 minutes," she said. Donovan stopped. "You're one of the kitchen staff, Banquet prep. Room service overflow, whatever needs doing." Still not looking up. 2 minutes, please. It's 3 in the morning. I'm aware. She circled something on the manifest. "Your Thursday delivery has a $34,000 discrepancy, and if I don't flag it tonight, the auditors are going to find it next week, and it's going to look intentional." Donovan stood very still. $34,000, he repeated. $34,212. Wren Calloway finally looked up. She had a smear of ink on her left cheekbone from where she'd apparently rested her face on her hand while reading. "Someone has been rerouting a portion of every dry goods order for the past 6 weeks. Small amounts. 12% here, 8% there. Enough to stay under the automatic flag threshold. But when you add it up across all 3 suppliers," she tapped the spreadsheet, "it's not small anymore." Donovan stared at her, then at the spreadsheet, then at her again. "How did you find this?" "The storage room shelves." Wren stood up, capping her pen. "I was rotating stock this afternoon, and the numbers on the cans didn't match the delivery receipt from last Thursday, so I pulled the prior 3 weeks. Then 6. She paused. "Then I got annoyed. You got annoyed. The numbers were wrong." She said it the way someone says the sky is blue. "I can't put wrong numbers back on the shelf and walk away. It's like leaving a splinter in. I can feel it." Donovan Ashworth ran a hand through his hair. He was the owner of 4 hotels. He had an MBA from Wharton. He had a staff of 312 people across this property alone, including a director of procurement, 2 assistant controllers, and an entire finance team whose specific job to catch exactly this kind of thing. And the woman who had caught it was crouched on a milk crate at 3 a.m. in her undershirt. "What's your name again?" "Wren Calloway. I've been here 8 months. Do you have a background in finance?" "I have a background in paying attention." She picked up her clipboard. "I took an accounting course online 2 years ago. Free certificate program. And I grew up helping my grandmother with her restaurant books, so I know what supplier fraud looks like." She paused. "Do you want the documentation or not? Because I can leave it on the controller's desk if you'd rather deal with it through proper channels." "No." Donovan took a step forward. "No, I want to see it, all of it." She handed him the clipboard. He read for 90 seconds without speaking. When he looked up, his expression had shifted into something she couldn't quite name. "Come back at 7, he said, "and bring everything you have." Wren nodded, gathered her papers, tucked the pencils back into her jacket pocket, and walked out through the side door without another word. Donovan stood alone in the kitchen for a long moment, holding her clipboard in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigeration units. "A splinter," he murmured to himself. He put the clipboard under his arm and walked back upstairs. He did not sleep. She arrived at 7 with a manila folder, a second folder, a small accordion file, and the same coffee mug from the night before, which she set on the corner of his desk and did not touch for the next 40 minutes while she walked him through everything she had found. Donovan had invited his head of procurement, a polished man in his early 50s named Richard Voss, to sit in. Richard sat with his arms crossed and his jaw tight, which Donovan noted. Wren did not seem to notice Richard at all. She was too focused on the numbers. "The pattern starts here." She pointed to the first page of her documentation. Week 1 of the new supplier contract, which went into effect 8 weeks ago. The discrepancies begin in week 2, which means whoever is doing this waited exactly 1 billing cycle before starting, presumably establish a baseline. She flipped to the next page. They're also rotating which supplier they hit each week, so no single vendor's reconciliation looks unusual. That's sophisticated, Donovan said. It's also lazy. Wren turned another page. They used the same rerouting account for all 3 suppliers. Once you know what you're looking for, it's one thread. Pull it and the whole thing comes apart. She set the folder down. The account the funds route through was opened 6 weeks ago. It's registered to a shell company called Pacific Ridge Provisions. I ran the business registration. Donovan's eyes sharpened. And? Wren hesitated for the first time. She glanced at Richard, then back at Donovan. The registered agent for Pacific Ridge Provisions, she said carefully, shares a mailing address with a residential property in Newport Beach. She placed a printed page on the desk. I couldn't confirm ownership. That would require access I don't have. Donovan picked up the page. Read it. He looked at Richard. Richard said nothing. The muscles in his jaw were working. Thank you, Wren, Donovan said, his voice carefully neutral. That will be all for now. She gathered her folders, tucked them under her arm, and left. The moment the door closed, Donovan turned to Richard. Newport Beach. Your brother-in-law has a house in Newport Beach. Liam, this is don't. Donovan's voice was quiet and very cold. Don't say something we'll both regret. Richard left the room without another word. Donovan sat alone at his desk, looking at the page Wren had printed. Then he picked up his phone and called his legal team. Within 3 hours, he had frozen the Pacific Ridge account, contacted his bank's fraud division, and placed Richard Voss on immediate administrative leave pending investigation. By noon, the entire hotel knew something had happened. By 1 o'clock, the story had changed shape 3 times as it passed through the staff lounge, the housekeeping break room, and the banquet prep area. The version that reached Wren was this: that she had fabricated the fraud to get Richard fired. That she had access to the storage room records because she had been manipulating them herself. That Donovan Ashworth believed her because he was already looking for a reason to replace Richard with someone cheaper. Wren heard this version from sources in the same afternoon. She went back to work rotating linens. She was very good at rotating linens. Donovan found her in the second-floor supply corridor at 4 that afternoon. She was counting pillowcases with the focused efficiency of someone who had decided the pillowcases were the only honest things left in the building. I need to speak with you, he said. I'm on shift, Wren. She stopped counting, turned around. She looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with the early morning. I've heard what people are saying, he said. She gave him a look that was almost amused, except that it wasn't. Which version? I know it's not true. Do you? She turned back to the shelves. Because from where I'm standing, it's easy to believe. A nobody from Banquet Prep finds a fraud that your entire finance team missed. That's not a hero story, Mr. Ashworth. That's a convenient scapegoat story waiting to happen. I have the documentation you brought me, which I had access to. She handed him a stack of counted pillowcases to hold without asking whether he wanted to. I know how this works. I've seen it before. Someone finds a problem. Someone else decides it's easier to eliminate the finder than to deal with the problem. I've already frozen the account and placed Richard on leave. Wren paused. When? This morning, before noon. She was quiet for a moment. Something shifted in her face. Not relief, exactly. More like recalibration. Oh, she said. I'm not going to let what happened this morning become a story about you. Donovan set the pillowcases back on the shelf, precisely where she had been stacking them, which seemed to momentarily derail her train of thought. But I need you to know that if people are giving you a hard time, I can handle it. I know you can. He paused. That's not why I came to find you. She looked at him directly for the first time since the morning meeting. Something in his expression was different from what she expected. More honest, somehow. Less hotel owner. Why did you come find me? She asked. He didn't answer right away. Then, the audit is in 11 days. I want you to go through every supply contract we have. She blinked. That's 347 vendor accounts. I know, during my regular shifts, I'll arrange coverage. She stared at him. Mr. Ashworth, I rotate linen and prep banquet tables. And apparently, he said, you also catch fraud that my finance team couldn't find in 8 weeks. He picked up another stack of pillowcases and handed them to her entirely unnecessarily. Is that a yes? Wren looked at the pillowcases in her arms, then at him, then at the shelves. I'm going to need a printer with color ink, she said. The black and white copies are hard to cross-reference on a real desk. Not a milk crate. I think we can manage that. She turned back to the shelf and resumed counting. Fine, but I finish my shift first. Of course. He left her to her pillowcases. What happened over the next 6 days was quiet, methodical, and deeply satisfying in the way that only very organized people can fully appreciate. Wren worked her regular shifts, then spent 3 to 4 hours each evening in a small office Donovan had arranged on the second floor. A proper desk, a color printer, a second monitor, and a pen holder she had arranged by ink color approximately 9 minutes after sitting down for the first time. She pulled vendor contracts, ran reconciliations, built a master tracking sheet that color-coded discrepancy types across 3 categories, and left annotated printouts on the desk each morning with a sticky note listing action items in order of urgency. Donovan started coming in early to read the sticky notes before the rest of his team arrived. He didn't tell anyone he was doing this. He just started waking up earlier. He also started noticing other things. The way Wren rearranged the coffee station in the staff lounge on her breaks because the cups were stored on the wrong side for right-handed people. The way she quietly corrected a new Banquet server who was folding napkins incorrectly. Not with condescension, but with the patient precision of someone who finds asymmetry genuinely uncomfortable. The way she talked to herself when she was working. A low, continuous commentary that sounded like a very competent person coaching herself through a problem in real time. This invoice is dated a Thursday, but the delivery log says it arrived Monday. He heard her say one evening when he stopped outside the office door. Which means either the date is wrong or the delivery log is wrong. Both of which are unacceptable. Pick a lane. He almost knocked, decided against it. He went back to his office and sat at his desk for a while, not reading any of the emails he was supposed to read. Day 4, Donovan walked into the staff break room and found Wren sitting at the corner table alone, eating a sandwich she had apparently brought from home in a container that was divided into 4 precise sections. She was reading something on her phone and had not noticed him. He got coffee, turned around, sat down across from her without being invited. She looked up. "You're the owner of this I'm aware. You have a private dining room." "I do. Why are you eating here?" "I'm not eating. I have coffee." "May I sit?" She looked at the chair he was already sitting in. "You're already sitting." "I know, but I'm asking retroactively." She studied him for a moment, then went back to her phone. He took this as a yes. They sat in a silence that was unexpectedly not uncomfortable. After a while, Donovan said, "How did you end up in hotel banquet work?" Wren finished chewing before she answered, which he appreciated. "I was doing bookkeeping for a catering company in Portland. They went under. I needed something fast, and hotels always need people who can work weird hours without complaining." She turned a page on her phone. "I like the hours, actually. 3 in the morning is quiet." "You like 3 in the morning? I like when no one else is there." She glanced at him briefly. "No offense taken." He wrapped both hands around his coffee cup. "The online accounting course, was that recent?" 3 years ago. I wanted to understand the books better so I could catch errors." She paused. "The catering company had been hemorrhaging money for 2 years before it closed. I saw it coming. I just didn't have the vocabulary to explain what I was seeing." She set her phone down. "That felt bad. So I got the vocabulary." Donovan looked at her. "You taught yourself accounting because it bothered you to see something wrong and not be able to name it, basically. That's..." He stopped. "Weird?" she offered. I was going to say impressive. He picked up his coffee. "But I understand the weird reading, too." She almost smiled. It was a small thing. He noticed it anyway. On day 5, the thing with Richard Voss went from bad to worse. Richard, on administrative leave and clearly not handling it quietly, had apparently been spending his time making calls. By mid-morning, Donovan's assistant director of operations came to him with a look on her face that meant bad news delivered carefully. "There's a complaint," she said, "from Richard. He's alleging that the documentation Wren brought to you was altered. He's saying she manipulated the supply logs to frame him." Donovan was quiet for a moment. "Is he filing formally? He's threatening to?" "He has a lawyer." "Of course he does." Donovan leaned back in his chair. "Pull the original digital logs, unaltered, time-stamped, straight from the server. I want them on my desk in an hour. Already requested them." "Good." He stood. "And make sure Wren knows what's happening. Should I? I'll tell her." He found her at the color printer, collating something with the focused intensity of a surgeon. She looked up when he came in. Read his face immediately. "He's pushing back," she said. "He is. He's saying I manipulated the logs." Donovan nodded. Wren set down her papers. "I didn't. I know. The original server logs will show. I've already requested them." She studied him for a moment. "You're not asking me to defend myself?" "No. Why not?" He leaned against the doorframe. Because I was there when you showed me the documentation. I watched you work. I've read every note you've left on my desk for 5 days. He paused. I know what someone who is covering something up looks like. And I know what someone who cannot tolerate a wrong number looks like. He met her eyes. You are very clearly the second one. Something moved across Wren's face, a complicated expression that she immediately tried to put away. Okay, she said quietly. The audit is in 6 days. I need you focused. I am focused. Good. He pushed off the door frame. And Wren, if anyone on staff says anything to you about this, I can handle it. He nodded, started to leave, stopped. The color printer is yours, he said without turning around. Permanently, whether you stay in this role or not. He left before she could respond. The night before the audit, Donovan was still in his office at 11 when Wren appeared in the doorway, her master tracking sheet in one hand and her red pencil in the other. Done, she said. He looked up. All 347 accounts? 348. I found one that wasn't in your vendor registry. It's been active for 4 months. She set the tracking sheet on his desk. Minor, coffee service supplier for the executive floor, overcharging by about 6% on recurring orders. It's flagged on page 9. Donovan looked at page 9. You found a second fraud, he said. Smaller one. She tucked the pencil behind her ear. The big one is clean. Richard's gone. The account is frozen. The documentation is airtight. The auditors will find no irregularities. She paused. Except for the coffee supplier, which is now also documented. Donovan sat back. Wren, I'd like to offer you a position. She looked at him, looked at the tracking sheet, looked back at him. I have a position, she said. A different one. Permanent, not temporary. Supply chain integrity analyst. Your own office, a real salary, access to all vendor contracts and server logs. You report to me directly. Wren was quiet for a long moment. I rotate linen, she said. I don't have a degree. You have 348 vendor accounts worth of demonstrated competence. He gestured to the tracking sheet. That's worth more to me than a degree. Your finance team is going to hate this. Probably, and the staff who thought I was framing Richard will have to adjust their understanding. He stood. As will Richard's lawyer when he sees the server logs. She looked at the window. It was dark outside, and she could see the faint reflection of the office in the glass. Herself standing with her pencil, him standing behind his desk, the room very quiet. What if I'm not good at it, she said. The official version, when someone's actually watching. You've been doing the official version for 6 days, he said. I've been watching the whole time. She turned back from the window. I'd need a better pen holder, she said. The one in that office is wrong. The pen's faced the wrong direction. I'll have it replaced, and I want to keep my break room access. I don't like eating in dining rooms. Done. And she stopped. And, he prompted. She looked at him in a way she hadn't before. Careful, direct, like she was running a reconciliation on something internal. This thing, she said, where you come in the supply corridor, in the break room. She made a small gesture with the red pencil. That's not just about the audit. Donovan didn't answer immediately. No, he said finally, it's not. The silence stretched between them, but it was a different kind of silence from the ones they'd had before. Less hotel, more human. I still have to think about the job, Wren said. Take your time. She picked up her tracking sheet, folded it with the precise care of someone who treats paper with genuine respect, and tucked it under her arm. I'm going home, she said. Okay, you should sleep. The auditors arrive at 8, I know. She walked to the door. Stopped. Mr. Ashworth, Donovan? She tried it, briefly, like testing a new formula. Donovan. She looked at the floor, then at him. The coffee cup on your desk, the handle is facing the wrong way. He looked at the cup. It's been facing the wrong way every night this week, she added. I kept not saying anything. Why didn't you? I didn't want to overstep. She paused. But it bothered me, every night. He reached out and turned the cup handle to the right. Looked at her. Better, he asked. Much better. She nodded once and left. Donovan stood alone in his office, listening to her footsteps fade down the hall, the turned cup on his desk. The tracking sheet gone, the audit 14 hours away. He was smiling, which seemed like an unreasonable response to a corrected coffee cup. He turned off the light and went home. The audit lasted 2 days. The auditors found no irregularities in the supply chain beyond the 2 items already documented and addressed. They noted in their formal report that the hotel's vendor reconciliation processes showed exceptional attention to detail and a proactive approach to anomaly identification unusual in properties of this size. Donovan had the report printed and left a copy on Wren's desk with no note attached. She came to find him 20 minutes later, holding the report. This is a very formal way of saying someone caught 2 frauds, she said. It is. You left it without a note. I thought it was self-explanatory. She looked at the report, then at him. I'll take the job. I know. You knew before I said anything. I knew when you said the penholder faced the wrong direction. He leaned against his desk. That was not a person planning to leave. She made a face that was not quite a smile and not quite an argument. The offer letter better have the salary spelled out in full. I don't negotiate well when numbers are vague. It will be specific to the cent. She nodded, started to go, stopped because she almost always stopped. About the other thing, she said to the door. The non-audit thing. Donovan waited. I need it to be clean. She turned around. Not complicated by the job, not complicated by the fact that I found the fraud. I need it to be its own thing, separate from everything else. That's fair, he said, which means dinner. She tucked the report under her arm, off property, with no one from the hotel present, where I can order what I want without anyone watching. When? She considered. Saturday. I work mornings on weekends. Saturday evening. 7 o'clock. Somewhere with good lighting, she added. I have terrible night vision, noted, and no tasting menus. I need to know what I'm ordering in advance. I'll send you the menu ahead of time. She looked at him for a long moment. You're very agreeable for someone who owns 4 hotels. You're very specific for someone who says she doesn't negotiate well. The corner of her mouth moved. Fair point. She pushed off the doorframe. Saturday, then. Saturday, he agreed. She left. He looked at the empty doorway for a moment, then at his desk, where she had straightened his stapler at some point without being asked and without mentioning it. He hadn't noticed until now. He picked it up, set it back down exactly where she had put it. Saturday came and went, and no one at the hotel knew anything about it except that Wren Calloway had switched from banquet prep to a new administrative role, and had, apparently, also reorganized the color-coding system for the vendor contract files, which the finance team found bewildering and the compliance officer found quietly brilliant. Donovan started coming in earlier. Wren stopped eating alone in the corner of the break room, though she still sat at the corner table, and the 4-section container was still there, and the red pencil was still behind her ear every morning by 7. Some things, when they work, you don't change. You just make sure the handle is facing the right direction. You pull the thread when you find a loose one, and you trust that the person sitting across the table from you in the corner of the break room, the one who showed up at 3 in the morning with a clipboard and a pencil, and a certainty that wrong numbers are never, ever just wrong numbers, is exactly where she's supposed to be.